Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today, Bava, Metzia, Daf Lamed Aleph. We're going to begin on Lamed Amud Beis by the new Mishnah. Says the Masnisin. Ezuhi Aveda. What is an example of a lost object? So Matzah Chamor Pora. Let's say you find a donkey or a cow that's royin b'derech and it's grazing on the road. Enzu Aveda. That doesn't mean that it's lost. Therefore, you're not obligated to return it because it could be that the owner knows that it's there. Chamor v'kelev hafuchim. However, let's say you find a donkey and its vessels are upside down; they're flipped over, which is obviously not the way they should be. Or para ratzabin akramim. Let's say you find a cow that's running among a vineyard, in which in itself that animal could get injured, and therefore no one would want his animal to do that. It's in Harzu Aveda. That actually would count. That's a lost object, you have to announce it. Now, the fact is that if you do this mitzvah once, it's not enough. Because if it was lost and you returned it, and then it runs out again, you have to keep doing the same mitzvah over because it says hashir teshivim, which means that even many times, even 100 times, you're obligated to do this mitzvah and not say, you know what, this is ridiculous. This guy keeps losing his animal. He's not responsible. Why do I have to keep bringing it back? No. Now, let's say the fact that you were busy taking care of this Aveda, that you end up losing the amount of work worth a sella. So, lo yarmulotain sella. You cannot say, give me the exact amount of money that I would have done. Let's say, for example, you're a lumberjack and and in 1 hour you make a sella. So instead of you working that hour, you were taking care of this Aveda. So you can't say, well, you have to pay me for my entire lost work, my lost wages. You're supposed to pay him the reward like a poil, like a worker. So basically what that means is that a person who is working, there are different degrees of difficult jobs. So being for example, chopping wood is very challenging and difficult, using that as an example. So it's possible this person would rather do an easier job, for example, just taking care of an Aveda. So therefore, there is a discrepancy between the two, and maybe that's what has to be paid. Im yesham beistin, if there's a court, mastem bifnei beistin. In order to get paid back your actual loss, you need to actually speak up in front of the beistin. Im yesham beistin bifnei miyasne shaloi koidim. So we say if there's no beistin, so in front of who can you make this claim? Rather, shaloi koidim, you come first. Which means it's possible then he would not have to return it. It says Rashi, so he doesn't want to stop his work. There's 3 people. Make this condition. I make this much money. I don't want to get paid less money by doing this. So ani ashiv, I'll return it im timer she'etos schar mishalim. If in fact I get the full amount, so then the basically will say, okay, fine, go ahead, you'll get paid whatever your losses are. That's only if there's a base, and if not, not. Fret the Gemara. Well, to what? Kol hani nemrin the lava veda havi. We're saying, what is a case of an aveda? So we've been learning about this mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda for some time now. So what? Up until now, all these cases where Chayv Hachros that doesn't count. So maybe Huda Hakakamer. Ezuhi Klal Aveda. What is a rule of a lost object? Shuchayba, they're obligated to announce. So Matzah Chamar Para. Let's say you find a donkey and a cow royin b'derech that it's grazing on the road. Enzu Aveda. V'lo Machayba, and you're not obligated to do anything. However, Chamor v'Kelev Hafuchim. If you find a donkey and its vessels are upside down, or parvaratza ben akramim, a cow running among the vineyard, harzu aveda, and therefore mechayaba. Fret the Gemara, ul oilam bitmia, says Rashi, v'chi afhi yim sena sham ul oilam nemar medasi v'chi der shalol hachnes. If you always see this animal grazing every single day, so then why would you think that possibly this animal, again, the owner doesn't know about it, right? If you see, there's two ways to read it. Rashi says, if you always see it, midasi, so again, you could either say, if you see it all the time, it must be that the owner knows about it, and this is the normal routine, therefore obviously you don't have to return it. Or you can say that if you're seeing this continuously, so maybe it's a problem. So Amar Yehuda Amar Rav, this is how you explain it. Ad shloisha yomim, until 3 days. What does that mean? So hechidami. So if you see it grazing for 3 days, then all of a sudden you have to announce. Now it depends. Ibil belil vasa. What if you see it in the middle of the night? A person's not just going to allow their animals roaming all over the place in the middle of the night. It can easily get lost. Even if it's for one moment, that will be enough of a proof that it's an Aveda. If it's during the day, low. Even if it's many times, if it's during the day, you let your animals graze. So that's not a raya that it's lost. So what does it mean 3 days? Well, that you see it in the early time of the day, as Rashi says, before so shachar, and toward the end of the day, when it's dark out, a little bit dark outside. So Tosi Yomi, 3 days Amrinan Isrumi Isramila. Venafka Tvei Vadi Avedahi. So the first 3 days, it's possible this is just the common stance of how it happens. But more than that, if you see this is going on for an extended period of time, it's most likely an Aveda. Tanya Mihachi. Matzah talis, the cardom, let's see if you find a talis or a tool, as we continue to Lamed Aleph, Lamed Aleph, Bisratia, Rashi says, Derech Kvushel Rabim, basically a public path that the Rabim could go. Par Ratzah Ben Hakramim Harzu Aveda. So in that case, or as we said before a couple times already, a cow running in the vineyard, that's an Aveda. Talis B'tzad Gader, let's say you find a garment on the side of a fence, Kardam B'tzad Gader, or you find this tool on the side of a fence, Upar Roy Ben Akramim, and the cow is not running Ben Akramim, but is grazing Ben Akramim, Ein Zu Aveda. However, Gimel Yamim Zachazeh Harizu Aveda. If it's 3 days consecutively, then you can already assume this is a lost animal. Ram Mayim Sheshoitvin Uvoyin. Let's say you see water that will be soon flooding a field. Harizeh Goider Bifnehem. So you should put a fence between them. So when you see something that's lost, you need to fix it so it's not going to get not destroyed or lost, and give it back to the owner. Also, it means land. If you see that the land is about to get destroyed, you should put some barrier in between it and the field and the water, so that the field doesn't get ruined. So it's a way of Vedas Karka. So I said I have a brisa which can actually support this idea. Let's say you see water coming to voy in harizeh, guide bifneim. So it says beferish. It's not necessarily a proof. Why is it not a proof? We're talking about a situation where there are bundles of grain on the ground. So therefore, it's not that you're necessarily doing it to save the land, but the items on the land. So either ika amarim, if there were bundles of grain on the ground, malamemra. So what's the chiddush? Of course you have to save it. That we're dealing with bundles of grain on the ground that actually need the earth. You would think that it has the same status as the earth itself, and therefore maybe you don't have to save it. Kamash Malon, you still have to. Matzah para b'chul. Dohagu v'kasha. We have a stira in the words themselves. Amr, first we said, the matzah chamor para roin b'derech ein zu aveda. If you have a cow that's grazing and it's on the derech, on the road, that's not an aveda. So we see that roin b'derech hu dolei havi aveda. When it has these two things, it's only grazing, it's not running, it's just grazing naturally, and it's on the road. That's when it's not an Aveda, which is mashma. If it only has one of those two ideas, in other words, haratza b'derech, let's say it's running on the street, or it's grazing, but it's doing it between the vineyards, havi Aveda. So maybe in those two cases, it would actually be an Aveda in that case. It's only because it's grazing on the derech. But if it's either grazing by the ben akramim or it's running on the derech, maybe again that's proof that's an Aveda. So, but the problem is the Sefer would tell you the opposite. If you have a donkey and the kalim are turned around, and you have a cow in which is running bein hakramim. So there's two opposites here. So Hari's only there is an Aveda. Now Ratza ben Akramim would have Aveda. Ratza b'derech v'roi ben Akramim means Aveda. So it's a stira when it comes to, again, if it's running, running on the road, or it's grazing in the vineyard. So how do we understand this? So we have two answers. Rabbi, Yagin alav rehu. So basically its friend speak to the other, which is referring to the sound of thunder. Tana roya b'derech, we learn like this: if it's grazing on the road, they'll have the Aveda. We said certainly that's not an Aveda. The truth is, not only there, but also if it's grazing, not just on the road, but even ben akramim. Tana ratza ben akramim. So we mentioned if it's running ben akramim, the havi Aveda, but huadin lo ratza b'derech. So in other words, it doesn't matter where, it depends what it's doing. If it's grazing, according to the Shita Babaya, you're always going to say that it's not an Aveda. However, if it's running, we always say it's an Aveda. Amalei Rav Iyagid olav rehu lisni kilta, v'koshin chamirta. Then mention the more kal situation, and then you could understand kal v'chaymer, the more strict, like this. Listening, let it say ratza b'derech, that if it's running on the road, even though the havi Aveda, you would maybe think, since it's on the derech, it's not an Aveda, it's still an Aveda. V'koshkin ratza ben akramim, that certainly is an Aveda, because it's in the middle of the vineyards. The listening roy ben akramim, dolei havi Aveda, mention when it's grazing, even though it's ben akramim, it's still not an Aveda, because it's grazing. Koshkin roy b'derech also it's not considered an Aveda, even though don't have the Aveda, because it's grazing b'derech, right? So in other words, it should tell you the bigger chiddush, not the less of the chiddush, to deduce the opposite. Elwell Marava, that's why Abai doesn't like that pshat. Rather, he says like this: Ratza a ratza lokasha. Running is not a question. We said running b'derech. So ha da'apa legabi dabra, ha da'apa legabi masa. It's all totally in which direction the animal's running to. If the animal's running toward the forest, that's a problem. It shows it's running away from its owner, and therefore it's an Aveda. However, if you see the animal's running toward the city, it's running back to its owner. So that's not an Aveda. Roya namul kasha. Grazing is not a kasha. Kan bi Avedis gufa, kan bi Avedis karka. One is the animal itself, and that's not an Aveda. And the other one is Avedis karka. In other words, the vineyard is getting ruined. The animal is not the issue. The issue is by you doing nothing, this vineyard is going to be destroyed. Kikatani roa b'derech have Aveda. When we said if you're grazing on the road, it's not an Aveda. Haroya ben akramim have Aveda. Why? It's an Aveda because Avedis karka. We're talking about the destruction of the land. We're not talking about the animal. When we said it's an Aveda ben akramim, haroya ben akramim lo have Aveda. However, if it's harvesting or grazing there, it's ba'avedis gufa. We're talking about the animal. That the animal is not an Aveda. The ratza ben hakramim misakva, because only if it's running ben hakramim does it get injured. Voroya ben hakramim lo misakva. However, an animal that is ben hakramim grazing, it will not get injured. So the whole issue is dafka when it's talking about the animal that's running. But again, our focus is not on the animal, but on the actual crops that are being destroyed. So it says, one second, when it comes to grazing in the vineyard, he granted the loy misakba. I understand you're saying that it won't get injured, so therefore that's the reason why maybe it's not Neveda, but typically Mishum of it is Karka. Why don't we say that you're ruining the land? So the answer is Bidikuti. We're talking about it's the Kuti's ground, and therefore we don't have that concern. But typically Mishum of it is Guba. Why don't we learn out because of the Aveda itself? The Dilma Katula, maybe the Kuti will kill the animal. The answer is Ba'asra the Master of a Hadr Katli, that they'll first warn and then kill. But Dilma Asru, maybe they did warn. Now, Ki Asru, if they actually gave a warning, Veloy is Daharuba, and they weren't careful with it, Vadi Aveda Madasi. So it's like it's ownerless since the Baal was warned and he didn't care, so he was certainly miyayish on it. Okay. Then the Gemara continues, you have to keep bringing it back many times. One time, Teshivim is trezimni. Maybe only do it twice. Hashev once, Teshivim twice. That's it. Normally, no. Hashev is a feel kuf pam 100 times mashma. Teshivim ainly elagaga labesai. I only know that you have to bring it to the guy's house. Like Yinasa Charvasam, how to know even to his garden, to his rishus is enough. As long as you bring it back, it doesn't have to actually physically have to be brought mamish to his house. Gemara says, well, one second, let's understand this. Hey Chidami, if the Gina and the Chorba is protected, so then Pshita, why not? Of course, Pasha, you should be able to drop it off there. Idolo mintra amai. So understand, if it's not protected, then why would you be able to leave it there? The oilam de mintra, it is protected. So then, what's the chiddush? Of course, you should leave it there. You don't need to let the owner know that you're doing it. When it comes to Hashavas Aveda, you don't need to tell. In other words, if you steal something, which is Gemara talked about in great length in Bava Kama, that you have to possibly inform the owner. The question is could he just count how many he has and he'll figure it out that way? No, so we say, no, it's necessary that you have to actually let him know. However, when it comes to Hashavas Aveda, it's not necessary. Just drop it off and you don't even have to let him know that you did it. Because the Torah says it, that you can do a lot of hashavos, which means in numerous different ways it constitutes as a return. And we're going to use the same drasha when it comes to other things. Shalech to shalach. Rashi says regarding shiluch hakain, when it comes to collecting the mother, the young, the egg or the eggs, you have to shoo away the mother bird. So Ema Shalech the one Zimna again Chad is Zimna. To Shalach is Trey Zimni. Just you can this is only twice. Normally no. Shalech Avil Mea Pam Mashma. Do it 100 times. To Shalach Ainli Elo Devar Rishus. I only know that if we're dealing with the Devar Rishus. That, for example, you don't need the bird except for the purposes of eating it. With Devar Mitzvah Menayin, how do you know maybe you need it for a mitzvah? Says Rashi Hayit Sarach Latahir Bo Some Matzayra, right? To be Matar Matzayra, you need birds. That there's still a mitzvah even when it comes to send it away, even if you need the birds for a mitzvah. When it says maybe when it says to rebuke is once, you only do it twice. No, even 100 times. So a teacher should rebuke the student. Pretty amazing. There's a chiyuv of the student to rebuke the teacher as well. Azov tazov imoy, that there's a mitzvah of helping him, of removing a package. Ainli elo balev imoy. That's only if the owner's there. Shein balev imoy minayin. Azov tazov mikol makom. You always have to help even if the owner is not there. Hakim takim imoy. The mitzvah of te'ina, of like helping him lift up, put a package on the animal. So the prik of te'ina, What's it? One is unloading, one's loading. Okay, we learn out one from the other. No tzrich. If it only mentions about unloading, maybe the reason why you should do it no matter what, even though Baal's not around, is because there's sar bali chayim, and there's also a monetary loss. As Rashi shehabehema miskalkelas, because the animal is going to get injured, and therefore the animal will be less valuable. When it comes to loading the lav tsar bali chayim ika, if you don't do it, there's no tsar bali chayim. On the contrary, the animal doesn't have this bundle. The animal won't get ruined. So it made me think the chiyuv isn't as strong that when the bottle is not there, you don't have to do it. So for that matter, maybe when it comes to te'ina loading, it's because you're being paid. However, when it comes to unloading, which is not as hard, putting it down based on gravity as opposed to putting it up, which fighting against gravity, Rav Shimon, he holds that te'ina, unloading, also you don't get paid. So Rav Shimon lo Messiah Kroi. So according to him, says Rashi, Hai mashma te'ina v'hai mashma prika. The pasuk isn't so clear what is hakim and what is tazoiv. It's not sure which one's loading, which one's unloading. So kasev chada habamina leprikasa avol te'ina loy kasev rachmana idach te'ina. So if it only had one and not the other, you wouldn't know which one is loading or unloading, and therefore you need to have it by both. Why do we need these two? And also, why do we need to have Aveda? Says Rashi, Hashavas Aveda, Lichtaiv Oha, V'ligmer Mina, Ta'akulas Haris Momen Yisraelhu. Sricha, Diakas Rachwana Hanitar, Dia Prika, and Ti'ina, Mishum de Tsar Damara. There's pain for the owner. Isa, Tsar Dida Isa, there's pain for the animal. Aval Aveda, when you lose an object, the Tsar Damara Isa, but Tsar Dida Lesa, there's no tsar for the animal. You're not causing any tsar for the animal. So maybe there would be no such mitzvah. Yashmin and Aveda Mishum de Lesa Lamara Bahada. It's because the owner is not here to help you as we continue to Lamed Alpha Mid Beis. So that's why you have to do the mitzvah, because the owner's not around. Lamed Alpha Mid Beis. Abel Hani Tardi, the Isa Lamar Bahada, the owner is there. Why should you have to help? After the owner's not even there, so why should you have to do it? So therefore, the chiddush is that you have to even help in that situation. Mois Yumas Hamake. So it says, okay. Actually, I didn't do question 9. Let's look at question 9 quickly. So he said it's even a student to the teacher. And then he asks, why, if it says shalech, why does it say tishalach, even though it's 100 times? So it's come to tell you that even it's l'davar mitzvah, again, like for the tzipar mitzayra, when it comes to the birds of mitzayra, still the mitzvah, the chiyuv still is the same. Okay, weiter. Mois yumos hamake. So it says the one who hit will be killed. Ainli ella b'misak suvaboy. I only know that whatever misa is written in the Torah. I don't know if you cannot kill him in that particular death. You can kill him in any way, says Rashi. The Torah says that such a person who kills is chayav b'tzayif with a sword. Let's say he's on a boat. Ubayrech is running away. You can shoot an arrow at him, or for the boat to sink. So the din is that you could kill him in any way, even though the Torah prescribes a specific way of killing him, but it can be done in a different way. When it comes to hakitaka of hitting, it's only the Torah's prescription. If it's not the haka, which the Torah mentions, you can do it anyway. That you can do it in any way. And this is, Rashi says, it's talking about an ir hanidachas. When it comes to a city in which has been determined to be Oived Avodah Zarah, the majority of the people there, so then there is a din of having them killed. And if you can't do it in the typical way, so then you have a chiyuv to do it anyway. Hashiv Tishiva. So Hashiv Tashiv. So the malveh must return collateral, like with the pillow. Ainli ella shemishkanoi b'rishus beistin. I only know if the mashkin is in the rishus of the beistin, because Rashi says the chsivul el minei b'chutz tamoid. It says that you should stand on the outside. B'shluch beistin kos medam. We're talking about the shluch beistin standing outside of the house. You shouldn't go in the house to claim the collateral. Mishkanei shelo b'rishus beis manayin. How do we know a mashkin also, which is not in the rishus of the beistin, is also required to return that collateral? Talmud Omer Hashet Tashim Mikol Makom. Chabel Tachboil. When it says Chabel Tachboil, so Einli El Shemishkanoi B'Rishus Mishkanoi Shelo B'Rishus Menayin. I only know if it was put in there with permission. If it was without his permission, Talmud Omer Chabel Tachboil Mikol Makom. Okay. Bahani Tarti Kroy Lomli. Why do we need these two psukim? Chad lichsus yoim, v'chad lichsus laila. One is for a garment for the day, and one is for the night. In other words, there's two separate psukim. One is, let's say, a pillow, and one is day clothing, whatever it may be. So you have a chiyuv of giving it back so that they'll be able to have what to wear. Pasoach tiftach, the obligation of opening up to give tzedakah. Ainli elo ani yercha, the people in your city, the poor. How do you have to help the people in other cities? Nasan titain. It says there's a mitzvah of giving. Ainli ela matan maruba. It's a big gift. Matan muetis manayin. Nasan titain mikol makom. Even a matan muetis you should give. Hanik tanik. When you free the eved, so you also can't have him go empty-handed, but you have to give him some gifts. You have to give him soin and bakar. Yayin ainli ela shenisbarach habayis megloloi. Then manikin. Only should you have to give him something when he actually was a blessing in your house. He caused prosperity in your house, so you should reward him when he leaves by giving him something. No matter what, you still have to give to him. However, so tanik lumli. So according to him, why does it say it? You're right. It actually is not. You're not going to give gifts. Hanik tanik lo is dafka if he actually did something good. If he didn't do good, then not. Havi tavi tenu. So you can lend him what he is missing. Mainly elish she'ein lo, he doesn't have. Mina rotzelis farnes, and he does not want to be taken care of. It says Rashi, mishalcha from you, but matan is a gift. So the Torah says, Havi derech halva. So give it to him as a loan. Say, I know you don't want to accept gifts. Okay, son of Matan Yichya, at least take this as a loan. And at the end of the day, just don't collect the loan. And then it's like you gave it to him. So Rachmana tain loy derech halva. It says you should give it to him like as a loan. Yeshlo, let's say he already has money, but he doesn't want to take care of himself. You don't, in that case, you still have an obligation to help him, even though he has this strange, bizarre mentality that he has money, but he still doesn't want to be satiated, and therefore he's going to end up starving or causing problems. So give it to him a loan there too. Now, Rabbi Shimon, you don't have to deal with that guy. So Tavitenu Lumli, so why does it say that? So Diritar Kalashan B'nai Adam, which we'll stop there. But let's see, maybe we have another question. Question 10. No. TA 17. Hashiv Tashev Esa Avoit. So it says you're supposed to return this mashka and do a couple Hashiv Tashev. I'm gonna do a couple Hapasik Shoiv Chavel Tachboil. So why does it have to say it twice? So Hashiv Tashev Rabbas Mishkol Eshel Rishus, even if it was a mashkin without permission. V'Yitzrach Gam Chavel Tachbol, one is Ksus Yoim, one is Ksus Laila. So it's 2 TA 17. So let's quickly find where it says that. Lamuli, so Hani Trey Kroy Lamuli, Chad L'Ksus Yoim, V'Chad L'Ksus Laila. And the other is come to tell you that You would only menayin. How do we know? Ainli ela shemishkano bershus, mishkano shalo bershus menayin. So again, chavol tachboil mikol makoim. TB 18 Shutvin Adkan.